Howdy, folks. I'm a Saturday morning sloth.
I'm Amber.
And here's some very slow Reddit. It won't be slow. Alright, folks. Our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not wanting to pretend to be my twin on her wedding day? Throwaway account. I'm a 30-year-old female and I have an identical twin sister. For the purpose of anonymity, I will call her Jess. Jess and I look so much alike, it can be freaky. At one point, we were still infants, and they drew little dots at the bottom of one of our feet just so they could keep track of who was who for medical reasons. My mom adored the fact that Jess and I were her cute baby twin girls and treated us as precious dolls who she would frequently dress alike and always make us do things together. Well, at first, I didn't mind at all because, well, it was my normal, and I do genuinely love my sister, but when we started getting older and I developed my own interests, I would get so frustrated or upset when I either couldn't do something because Jess didn't want to, or the only way I could do it is if Jess would come with me, or vice versa. It was really terrible because despite our appearances, Jess was the more extroverted twin who liked to go to parties and do sports while I was introverted and artistic. I was always made to do what Jess wanted to do because me not wanting to be social was seen as bad, and the only way that Jess would agree/endure my hobbies was if I did her homework or chores. When my parents were divorcing, I was over the moon when my dad agreed to let me live with him in another state. And Jess didn't want to move away from all of her friends. My mom cried when I had to tell her that I didn't want to live with her and Jess anymore, and Jess accused me of hating them. This really wrecked me emotionally, and I almost caved, but my dad got me into therapy, who helped me gather the courage to just leave. I never did really shake off the guilt until around senior year of high school, but I never once regretted my choice because of how liberating I felt by getting to be just me. I was slowly able to repair my relationship with my mom and Jess, but Jess and I were never as close as we used to be, and I was honestly fine with that. Fast forward to adulthood, and Jess is engaged to her boyfriend Steve, a 36-year-old male, and their wedding is set for this spring. Unfortunately, Jess was recently in a bad accident and her face is going to need to get some cosmetic surgery. She's been crying on and off for days over this because there's no way she'll be healed up in time for the wedding. My mom, Steve, and I have been trying to console her, but it's just not enough. Well, earlier this week, my mom approached me with the idea of dressing up as Jess and pretending to be her for the ceremony and reception so the pictures will look nice. I was floored, and I gave a hesitant no because while I do know that this would mean a lot to my sister, I just feel guilty and uncomfortable about it. My mom was upset with me and said that it wasn't a big deal, it was just for the pictures, and asked me if I really wanted to make it so that Jess would have to be reminded of the trauma whenever she had to look at her wedding photos or just not have any photos at all. Am I the jerk? Edit to add, okay, because I've already seen this in 2 other comments, I just want to clear up some things. 1, Jess and Steve's wedding is booked at their dream venue, and if they postpone, which is in about 3 weeks, they won't be able to book it again until around 2025, and the families on both sides are coming in from out of state. Well, apparently, between the wedding cost and needing to save up for cosmetic surgery, Steve and Jess don't have the money to pay for a professional Photoshop. 3, we live in America, so as far as I know, since Jess's surgery is purely cosmetic purposes, health insurance may not cover it. 4, my mom was the only one who actually approached me about this, so I don't know for sure if Jess and Steve know about this idea. And I'm honestly a little hesitant to actually try to ask them about this in case they're on board and start pressuring me to agree. They won't. And edit 2. Sorry for not clarifying. What my mom is proposing is that I wear the wedding dress and Jess wears whatever I was going to wear to the wedding. And then I just stand in for her when it's time to walk down the aisle, do the entrance at the reception, first dance, bouquet tossed, and photo time. I wouldn't actually be doing the vows. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. This is a very strange request on the mom's part. Like, I am sure that it's really hard for Jess going through this situation, but honestly, if the pictures are really important, the best thing she can do is postpone.
Well, I want to point out something, is that Jess is in a position where she's uncomfortable, but she has the love and support of her family. She has the love and support of her friends. She has a husband who's standing beside her side, even in this rough time, and those should all be pleasant things despite like the ongoing trauma of the situation. And she shouldn't forget about the importance of having a good, healthy support network. And I can understand her feeling traumatized by this, but this will be way more traumatizing to see her sister doing all of the things that she should be doing in her place.
Well, that's the thing, is like, imagine having your wedding day and watching your sibling do everything you're supposed to. Like, you're a guest at your own wedding.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to be a fun time for anyone.
No.
And I understand, like, a lot of people are very much about pictures at weddings. Like, they want this to be this is the one big time they're going to splurge. They're going to get the great pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely understand why that's a hard thing, but it's not like she's going to look back and forget that was OP there.
No, she won't. And in fact, it'll probably just create more resentment.
Mm-hmm. Like, this isn't like baby pictures where it's like, oh yeah, I mean, you both were infants. Who knows which is which?
Yeah.
Like, there could be some confusion there, but you're both full-grown adults. You're going to remember who walked down the aisle. You're going to remember who had the first dance. And, like, imagine how awkward that's going to be for the guests, too. Like, if OP walks down the aisle and then goes back to her seat, and then her sister gets up to do the vows, and then goes back, and then OP does the exit and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
plus, like, don't they take pictures during vows generally?
They usually do. Our photographer definitely did, so.
And I think that this is just going to be... Your mother is not thinking clearly or straight. There is no way Jess or her husband are going to be on board with this idea at all. Your mom needs to take a step back for a moment and realize what she's asking. And I would just for the sake of thoroughness, ask your mom where she got this idea from. If this is something that Jess and Steve are asking of you, run. Okay? Don't look back. Just run. Go no contact with all of them. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad suggestion. But I mean, this is, you're not a prop. Mm-hmm. You're not someone's prop or doll, or you're your own person. You get to be your own person, and you're not your sister's understudy.
Yeah, and you're not interchangeable. Like Brian was saying, you're not, this whole, like, it's a problem with twins where people basically expect them to be interchangeable. Mm-hmm. And it's not the case. How is she going to have any, like, yeah, she'll have nice, I'm using nice in quotation marks, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure your sister is absolutely lovely as she is. But, like, if she's very, like, image driven, image conscious, yeah, she'll have the nice photos, but she won't have any special memories of that day. And the memories matter a lot more than the aesthetics.
Yeah, and if this really does bother her a lot, then what she can always do is she can have one photo touched up, and then that way they have one photo that they can kind of have as like the one that she might feel a little less bad about. And then if they want to do photo editing on other photos in the future, they can do that.
Yeah, they can always save up for it. A lot of, photographers will allow you some amount of time. They hold on to the photos for some amount of time and would be willing to touch up photos later on.
Oh, and they can probably get the raw prints, right? Mm-hmm. If they get the raw prints, they'll be able to send it off to any photo editor to actually get them edited later. In fact, you don't even need the raw prints for a good photo editor. They can use whatever you have and touch it up. So it's not imperative that they have this done immediately. So OP, anyhow, take care and good luck. I hope that this is not something that is foisted on you. And I just hope that your mom is not thinking clearly or straight and is just coming up with anything that kind of, like, some people just come up with a bunch of ideas and throw them at the wall and see what sticks. And hopefully this is just one of those ideas and she's just not thinking clearly, because this is a bad idea. All right, folks, our next letter this Saturday morning special is titled Advice Wanted Long Distance Relationship 18-year-old Female and 18-year-old Male. And this one was actually sent to me by the OP here, and I wanted to cover it because I think that it does cover a topic that we don't really touch on that often, long distance relationships. So thank you for sending this in, OP, and let's get started. My boyfriend is an 18-year-old male, and I'm an 18-year-old female, and we've been together since freshman year, 9th grade, but have known each other since 7th grade. We went to the same middle school and high school. We spent the majority of our relationship long distance, as our parents are strict and COVID happened. I only ever saw him in person at school or when we had a date, where usually my parents made me take along my younger sister or go with friends. I'm rarely alone with him. Our main method was video calls. We both go to college, and he goes to a top university 90 miles away from me, while I go to a local community college. Now, I don't see him in person until every other week, and for a brief hour or two, as we are both extremely busy. You would think that I would have gotten used to long distance, but for some reason, I'm actually getting more needy. Some examples include I'm getting more impatient with him, I get sad more easily, and I want to be on a call whenever possible. I want to have virtual dinner dates or dates in general, stuff like that. However, he doesn't seem to be the same. He doesn't like being on the call while he's doing work or studying, simply on a video call. I don't talk or even unmute myself when he's busy. He plays a lot of games. Our schedules also don't align, so we rarely have dates. It's also important to note that I can't seem to think of what to talk about when we are actually able to talk, and it's usually the same conversation over and over again. I don't know what to do. I've tried voicing out my concerns, but it's usually the same response over and over again, or he shrugs it off. Is it me? What can I do to be better? How should I approach this? What can I even do? Note, it's a personal boundary of his to end the call whenever he's doing work. I understand that. Whenever I throw a fit about it or make a comment about it, I am the one at fault. However, I just want to be with him. All right, folks. What advice can we offer for OP here?
I think OP needs to have a hard look at the relationship. And I think my first recommendation would be making sort of a pros and cons list, because it's not clear to me from this post what is keeping OP with this guy other than familiarity. A lot of times with posts, people will have like a laundry list of all the ways their partner is great. And then, oh, but there's this thing they're doing that I don't like. And I'm not getting those same vibes here.
You know, I think that relationships require a lot of work. And that's the real crux of it. And if both parties aren't really invested in making a relationship work, then it's really hard to make a relationship actually work. And it seems like you two are having a really hard time connecting in a meaningful way. And that's understandable given the circumstances around your relationship. And I think there does need to be a good hard look at what you want out of this relationship. If you're not happy with this relationship, then this is a kind of a red flag in its own right. It also seems like you two aren't able to make time for each other. And we make time for the things that are important to us. If you two don't have a whole lot in common, maybe you two need to start looking for things that you do have in common. And if he likes to play video games, if that's what it kind of sounds like, are there any video games that you're interested in playing? Are there activities that you two can do together that you two can build up those bonds of a relationship?
Yeah, well, it seems like he's just not that invested. And I don't know if he's just really swamped or what. Like, it's really hard to say from just this one perspective. But it does seem like OP is putting a lot more into this relationship than he is. And there's not really anything you can do. Like, you could be the best partner to someone in the world, but if they're not committed, they're not going to give it their all.
Well, and if he is at a top 90 university, he may very well be busy all the time. And if their two schedule isn't aligning, then it just might be a matter of circumstances. So it's really hard for me to speculate about whether he's invested in this or not. But it does seem if he does have time for other hobbies, then it isn't so much that he's absolutely has no time period. He also seems they have time to visit each other. So I don't know what your schedule is, OP, but is it possible that you can visit him? Can you two carve out some time to basically have a date, you should be scheduling and planning these dates ahead of time. That way you two can make sure that you're on the same page so that you two can actually sit down and have these conversations. It might be better for him if he knows when the date is going to be. Maybe he just is really hard. It's really hard for him to be spontaneous. Some people are not able to be spontaneous.
Yeah, well, and I really am not sure from this post. Again, like, there's just, if you're really having a hard time making conversation with someone and you're having the same conversations over and over and over again, that just does not give me good feelings for this relationship. Like, I think the biggest thing, OP, is just, what are you hoping to get out of this relationship? Mm-hmm. And is it a reasonable thing he can provide? And it may not be something he can provide right now, because if he is extraordinarily busy and then, he just wants, like, I don't know how often he's playing video games. Maybe it's a once in a while thing and he just needs to decompress, and that it's not like he's not prioritizing you, he's just so swamped. That still may not be the right relationship for you right now if you need more time and attention. Mm-hmm. Or he could just genuinely not be that into this and he's like fine with the status quo. He doesn't want to put in any more effort, and that may not be the relationship for you. So I think think about if things continue as they are, what is going to look like for you? Are you going to feel satisfied? Are you going to feel fulfilled? Because I think the problem is OP wants, like, what can I do to fix this? And
yeah.
Sometimes you can't, because it has to be a mutual decision. And if he's like, everything's fine, there's nothing wrong, you're really you have to accept things as they are or move on and find someone else.
Yeah. And one kind of important thing to play off of what Amber's saying here is, one lesson that you might learn in life is you can do everything right in life and still lose. And that's the sad thing, the sad reality. Sometimes there are situations where you can do everything in your power, you did everything right, and you still come out on bottom. And that's life. And that's not going to be every single situation. It's not going to be every single time. But that's something important to remember, is that sometimes there are those situations that are just no win. And in this particular case, it's hard to get a full, clear perspective on exactly the relationship dynamics that are happening here, but it seems like from the way you've written this, you're putting a lot more effort into this. You're carrying this relationship. And that's a hard position to be in. And maybe he's the type of person who needs a little bit more space, and he feels smothered by this. So maybe it's too much attention for him.
Well, that's a good point. If you've really stepped up how much you're trying to see him and what you're trying to get out of him, he may have been really comfortable with how things were before, and now is just feeling overwhelmed and smothered by the extra attention. Because some people, they may care about you, but they need a lot of alone time, and that's totally valid, but it may not work well with what you want in a partner.
Yeah. So relationships are hard. They're complicated. Anytime you are with another person, it's a hard dynamic to balance. And again, you really need to know what you want out of a relationship, and you have to figure out if this is the relationship for you and if it is worth fighting for. And if it is, I'm not saying that it isn't, then you can hopefully work towards finding some mutual ground, some mutual conversations, doing some fun things with each other, and having a good time, right? And, who you're with, it's not always going to be fun in games and, a good time, because relationships are work. But it should be fun at least some of the time, right? So that's my advice, OP. Maybe this isn't exactly what you wanted to hear, but hopefully it at least helps give you a direction that you can kind of move forward from here.
There's still a lot of time to find someone who's a good fit for you. Like, if you are kind of sticking in this relationship because it's familiar and the idea of finding someone new is scary, maybe it's time to let go of those concerns and just see who else is out there, you know?
Yeah. But if he's like the one, then maybe there are some pain and suffering that you have to go through for the short term, and hopefully someday it'll pay off. Anyhow, OP, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is coffee time. Grab your coffees of choice.
I have tea. I'm doing this tea time right, unlike someone else.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the sound of somebody defying me. I don't know where I was going with that. We've got a joke here from Amber. So, Amber, what's your very defiant joke?
I don't know if it's all that defiant. Why did the teddy bear say no to dessert?
Well, I mean, that is pretty defiant. Don't you think? Like, they're saying no to dessert? That's I would say that's contrarian. Because they're a contrarian. I don't know. That didn't work at all. I thought that was like I had it in my head. I'm like, oh, we can make this work. It didn't work. It just did not work. Well, okay. So this is why the bear said no to dessert. I know this bear. I know. We have lots of friends here. And this bear just happens to be one of my friends. And this bear is a teddy bear. Okay? And he said no to dessert because, you see, it was the last slice of cake. Their owner, who has this teddy bear, was looking a little sad. They looked like they were a little down. And the teddy bear was like, I want them to be happy. And so they gave the last piece of cake to their owner. And they're like, here. And then they gave them a hug. And then that's why the teddy bear said no to dessert.
Because he was stuffed.
Oh. That was pretty good. I liked it. And I, like I said, have coffee. And apparently we need more sleep on Saturdays. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Amber, tell me an unbearable moral to a story today.
An unbearable moral.
You can just use the word bear in there.
I figured. Well, I have to avoid the word bear.
Oh, you have to avoid the word bear, which shouldn't be that hard.
No.
Like, how often do you use bear in a sentence? Probably not very often.
You do not have to pose as your sibling's body double, ever.
That is an unbearable moral.
There are no bears anywhere in it.
OPs does not have to... It would be unbearable, OP, for you to pose as your sister during her wedding. And so, yes, don't do that. That's today's moral. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
All right, folks, our first Saturday morning bizarre letter is titled... They're not all bizarre. I don't mean to make it sound that way. Oh no. Oh, this has gone off the rails already. We had such high hopes, but now... now Amber didn't have any hopes. She's just looking over there like, yeah, this is expected.